Welcome back. 14 minutes after 11 o'clock, we're speaking about workplaces that are short staffed. How is it affecting you as an employee doing work for three, four other individuals, but earning a salary for one? Are you demoralized, or is it a challenge that you love taking up? My guest is Klaus Muller, industrial psychologist. Klaus, I hope you're here. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
I am here again. Good morning to you, Thabo, and to your listeners.
Fantastic hearing from you. What impact does it have on an ordinary employee having to do so much work for other non-appointed employees? You're carrying on your shoulders responsibilities of two other colleagues who are not even, and you're not even getting a salary for them.
Mm, mm. Look, not an uncommon thing in South Africa. Um, They are, look, a lot of this sort of comes down to why the reason for the understaffing is happening in the first place. Now, there might be legitimate reasons for that. In most cases, I would say it is quite surprising how much one human being can actually do at the end of the day.
Mm,
And that's the question. I suppose the second question is also for how long. We can all pretty much rise to an occasion, what I mean, and help the company out and the team that we work in with over a short period of time. We all have a little bit of extra reserves that we can maybe draw on, and make this happen and show some commitment and loyalty to the organization that you work for. But heaven help you if you do a good job. Because if you do a good job of that, they are, you know what, Tabo's been so brilliant at this. He's actually managed to pull this off for 2, 3 months now. You know what I mean?
mm.
So he clearly can do it. So we are simply going to let him do it. And in the meantime, you're like, hey, I thought this was temporary. And, if we're going to be doing this, like surely I should be compensated for these efforts. And then they'll normally point to your job description. And in your job description, somewhere there, it'll say something like, we may add extra functions as operational requirements deemed necessary. And then you're stuck, and then you're trapped. And that would be a very bad scenario to get stuck in.
Klaus, how do you vocalize this? Perhaps someone resigned at work, and you understand
Oh,
that, listen, Klaus left us unceremoniously on the 15th of October, and I understand that my employer is busy trying to replace him. But this is going on. It's now December the 12th, and we are really pushing, and I'm carrying his workload. How do I vocalize it
mm,
without seeming somehow
oh,
ungrateful for my work? And also sounding professional, that whilst I'm
mm.
complaining, but it's a legitimate concern that I have.
No, I think you absolutely nailed the dilemma. But I mean, it is unfortunate that we are in as a country that there simply aren't that many jobs going around. Which, so, and part of that conversation, is there's almost like an unspoken word sometimes where it's like, you should be grateful for the job you have, and you should do everything that you can to hold on to that. And there is some truth to that, but it definitely opens you up to exploitation
Mm,
on that front. And then it's like, okay, so now, having a job is not a trivial thing, and it's not a trivial thing in a country like South Africa. And there's normally a lot of people who depend on you having that job, like around you, and people who you support. So then it's like, okay, well, how the hell do you balance this? Because you can't carry on indefinitely, just doing more and more and more, and it's just being expecting that is okay, because it isn't okay. And not just that, it's like carry on doing that for 6 months, 9 months, and you'll hit burnout. And if you hit burnout, you'll be of no use to anybody, never mind your loved ones or your work.
mm, mm.
So it's good to know that is what's being traded in that sense.
Sure.
So the alternative of you not speaking up when you need to speak up, you're going to pay the price later on.
Yeah.
So I would say it's definitely worth speaking up.
Is it a
The question
conversation?
that you asked early on is how.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Apologies, Klaus, up to interrupt you. Is it a conversation
No.
that you have with HR or your immediate superior? And the how part. We both sit it down, or do I take them out for coffee so that it's casual but impactful?
I would definitely suggest that. So an informal conversation first, always an informal conversation first. But then simultaneously, I would also start getting my ducks in a row. And what I mean by saying that is I would also just, just make sure that my CV is nice and polished and ready. And in the meantime, just, like, look, if you're going to negotiate, you're going to need to negotiate from almost like a point of strength. But more importantly than that, if you're going to negotiate, you'll have to negotiate where they feel the seriousness of what you're asking, and that they better pay attention to you. Because if they don't pay attention to you, you're going to leave, and it's going to be even worse for them.
Mm,
So, and that means that you need to have a reasonable option that you can go to and explore should this not work out.
mm.
So that when you walk into the meeting, let's say further down the line, and we're negotiating for, let's say, remuneration, that they know that they must take you seriously.
Sure.
Otherwise, they won't.
Yeah. Klaus Muller is my guest, industrial psychologist. We're talking about the cost of understaffing and how to keep employees motivated when the workload keeps growing. Klaus, do some companies, and I will concede not all, but do some companies take advantage of your willingness to show up when the company's chips are down, and your desire to prove yourself when they are two men down and you're saying, I'll carry this load? Do they exploit that to an extent where it now benefits the company to your detriment, and they're just turning a blind eye?
Oh, absolutely. I've consulted for those companies before. I think the worst ones that I've come across are definitely startup companies. Startups are just, it's an absolute mess. It's so unbelievably unstable. And it's like the amount of pressure that gets put on people. And I think particularly young people who don't know better, that
Mm,
they haven't been exposed on how work environments can be, or perhaps how they should be, or what's a good environment. And they have no frame of reference that they
mm,
take in for themselves. I think the one thing, as we were speaking, what is there's also an impact on the team. Okay, so I mean, so far we've been focusing on the individual, but okay, so we don't know what the reason is, but let's say that there were a team of 6 or 7, and now there are only 4 people left. Let's say those 4 people that are left there will feel a responsibility to keep things afloat. And the more responsible they feel, the less likely they will be to leave.
mm.
And I think, and and I think the problem is allowing them, is the team continuing to do the task as best as they can. And unless it fails dismally, nobody is going to look.
Yeah,
They just won't look. You know what I mean? If that keeps carrying on, they'll go until that thing is absolutely broken and then do something about it.
sure. Klaus, how do I say no? My manager has been continuing like this for the past 4 months, and I've been carrying the load, but I feel that enough is enough. And I now can I say, unfortunately, I cannot take up that task. We needed to have appointed someone at least 2 months ago. It's getting heavy on me. I'll have to say no because uh, it's just not my job. How do I say that? I don't want to qualify it by saying without sounding rude, but is there a way of making the message land?
I think the most important thing is saying it. I think worrying about trying to say it in a finessed manner, that's a secondary problem. The most important thing is to say no. And ironically, with I would say maybe about a quarter of all the individual people that I work with in my practice, a lot of, and these are very well put together human beings. But their one kryptonite is that they battle and have massive difficulty in saying no. In saying no, they don't want to say no. They want to be helpful. They want to try. It and we end up spending a lot of time on learning how to say no. And the problem is with the situation is it's very difficult to go from somebody who is somewhat people, like a bit of a people pleaser, and and thinks about the group and thinks about other people and is considerate. So they are very unselfish, right? So to go from that sort of unselfish, always think about other human beings and put others first, to putting themselves first, is very hard. Is very hard for them. It's very hard to do that overnight.
Yeah.
So what I would advise to people who are in that situation is, if possible, like the most important thing is that you say no, and not just you can't just say no. It's no, and this is the consequence of me saying no, and this is what I would prefer to have instead. You need to give whoever it is that you're negotiating with an option, a realistically conceived option that would be acceptable to you, that they can decide. You have to give them an option, an alternative instead. That would also work.
I'd love to hear from
Tricky,
you.
eh?
Very tricky. 011-883-0702. I would love to hear from you. Are you experiencing this at the organization that you are working for? And is your boss complacent and they feel that you can carry on this load for quite some time? You're understaffed and you're afraid to vocalize it. You love your job, yet the load is way too much because you're doing a job for Sandra, for Thabo, and for Adel. And enough is enough. Let us know on 011-883-0702. What can you do? Or it could be that you are an employer on one end and you feel that, I am not ready to bring in 4 other individuals who've just left the organization. Recruitment is going to take a little bit longer. In the meantime, Joseph can handle this. He's been handling it anyway for the past 6 months. He's doing a great job. And I don't have to pay extra salaries and deal with more headache. Let us know on 072-702-1702. Let's go straight to Mkolisi in Centurion. Mkolisi, hi.
Hi, good day. Thank you for the great show, Thabo, and thank you to your guest as well.
Thank you, sir.
I was part of a management team some time ago, just before COVID, where we were understaffed and we had to somehow make a plan to get things done. So the management team put me into a role where I was overburdened and I actually suffered some burnout. But to counteract that, what they end up saying was that you are going to have to schedule the proper time as a team to understand that where the shortfalls are. Now, of course, apart from the conversation that we've just had now, where someone is struggling to say no, we had somebody in the team who was not able to say no. We actually ended up saying you are going to make concerted time to attend to your mental challenges or mental state as a person, so that you don't end up spilling over a proper challenge that would hurt others in the team. So in short, the conversation you are having is a real challenge today. Currently, I'm a director of HR, and I see this on a daily basis where someone is loaded up with work, and I say, no, it's not conducive for the person, because at the end of the day, they will end up hurting other people because they have not had a chance to say no.
Interesting, Mkolisi. Thanks for that insightful call. In closing, Klaus?
In closing, I think there is, let me think about, okay, so there's a price that you pay if you stay under those circumstances, and there's a price that you pay if you leave. Now, those are your 2 options, and the only choice that you actually have is to pick your poison. And I would say pick the poison that is the one that will serve you best long term.
And either way, you are bound to step on someone's toes, won't you, Klaus? This is, you can't really win under circumstances.
No, that sounds so depressing. But there is a way through this. There
Yeah.
definitely there is a way through this, and there is a path. And what I would suggest to your listeners is, to talk to people who they respect and trust. Because no matter what, it's hard doing this on your. It's difficult doing this with support. It is virtually impossible doing it without.
Really appreciate your insights and your astute counsel on this. Klaus Muller, industrial psychologist, thanks for speaking to us. 11:30.
Let's walk the talk.